I was driving my grandson Dylan home from his basketball game when he grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. The fear in his 10-year-old eyes made my blood run cold. "Grandpa, please don't drop me off at home tonight. Mom's meeting with those men again. I heard her say your name. She said it would look like an accident. You have to believe me this time." I looked at him in the rearview mirror. His hands were shaking. This wasn't the first time Dylan had warned me about something. 3 weeks ago, he'd told me his mom was hiding papers in the garage. I dismissed it as childish imagination. 2 weeks ago, he said strangers came to the house when his dad wasn't home. I told him they were probably repair people. But now, sitting in my truck on a Phoenix side street with my grandson trembling in the back seat, I made a choice that would either save my life or prove I'd lost my mind. I believed him. Before I tell you what we discovered that night, I need to know. Where are you watching from right now? Drop a comment with your location and the time, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about my own family. It was a Thursday evening in October. The Arizona heat was finally breaking, that perfect desert twilight when the sky turns purple and orange. I'd picked Dylan up from his basketball practice at Pinnacle Peak Community Center like I did every Thursday. His parents both worked late. My son Marcus was a sales director at a tech company downtown. His wife Andrea managed a real estate office in Scottsdale. They'd asked if I could help with Dylan's schedule, and I'd jumped at the chance. After my wife Ruth died 4 years ago, spending time with my grandson was the highlight of my week. Dylan climbed into my Ford F-150, his practice jersey soaked with sweat. He was quiet. Normally he'd talk nonstop about practice, about the new plays Coach Williams was teaching them, about which teammates were improving. But tonight, nothing. "Everything okay, buddy?" He stared out the window. "Grandpa, can I ask you something?" "Anything. If you knew something bad was going to happen, but nobody believed you when you tried to tell them, would you just give up?" I glanced at him. "Where's this coming from?" His voice dropped. "You remember when I told you about Mom's secret meetings?" "Dylan, we talked about this. Your mom has client meetings sometimes. Not at midnight, Grandpa. Not with men who park 2 blocks away so Dad doesn't see their car." My hands tightened on the wheel. "What men?" He turned to me, and I saw tears in his eyes. The same ones who came to our house last Tuesday. I heard Mom talking to them in the garage. They were looking at something. Plans, I think. One of them said, "Your address." I heard them say, "Camelback Mountain Road. That's where you live." I felt cold despite the warm evening. "What else did you hear?" Mom said it needed to look natural. She said Friday morning. "That's tomorrow, Grandpa." "Friday morning what?" "I don't know. But Grandpa," she sounded different. Not like Mom, like someone I don't know. That's when he grabbed my arm. We were stopped at a red light on Shea Boulevard. The fear in his face was real. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't a child making up stories for attention. "Please don't take me home yet. Can we just drive for a while?" I made a decision. "Sure, buddy. How about we grab dinner? Just you and me." We drove to a diner on Cave Creek Road, sat in a back booth. Dylan ordered a burger but barely touched it. I ordered coffee. I didn't drink. Instead, I asked questions, gentle questions. "When did you first notice these meetings? Who were these men? What exactly did you hear?" The picture that emerged made me sick. For the past 2 months, Andrea had been meeting with 2 men, always late at night, always when Marcus was traveling for work. Dylan had overheard conversations, words like insurance policy, and accidental fall, and inheritance, and natural causes. My grandson had been trying to tell people. He'd told his father, who'd dismissed it. He'd told his school counselor, who'd suggested family therapy. He'd tried to tell me, and I'd made excuses. But now I was listening, really listening. I'm 65 years old. I spent 40 years as a civil engineer before retiring. I've designed bridges, calculated load capacities, assessed structural risks. I understand probability, and sitting across from my terrified grandson, the probability that he was making all this up was essentially 0. "Dylan," I said quietly, "I believe you." His eyes went wide. "You do?" "Yeah, buddy, I do. And I'm sorry I didn't before." "What are we going to do?" "First, You're not going home tonight. You're staying with me. Won't Mom and Dad worry? I pulled out my phone, texted Marcus. Dylan wants a sleepover. Basketball tournament this weekend. Wants to get in extra practice tomorrow morning. That okay? The reply came in seconds. Sure, Dad. Thanks. Have fun, Dylan. I looked at my grandson. We bought ourselves some time. Now we need to figure out what's really going on. We drove to my house on Camelback Mountain Road. Small, ranch-style place, 3 bedrooms, mountain views. I'd lived here for 32 years. Raised Marcus here. Ruth and I had planned to grow old here together. After she died, I'd thought about selling, but couldn't bring myself to leave the memories. Dylan went straight to the guest room, the one that used to be his dad's. I made up the bed with clean sheets. You're safe here, I told him. I promise. After he fell asleep, I sat in my living room and tried to make sense of everything. My daughter-in-law was planning something involving me. Something scheduled for Friday morning. Something that needed to look natural or accidental. I thought about my life insurance policy. $400,000. Beneficiary was Marcus. I thought about my house. Paid off. Worth maybe $600,000. My retirement accounts. Another $300,000. I'd always planned to leave it all to Marcus and Dylan. But what if Andrea had other plans? I couldn't go to the police with a 10-year-old's overheard conversations. I needed proof. Real evidence. And I needed it fast. Because whatever was planned for Friday morning was less than 12 hours away. That's when I remembered something. 6 months ago, after a break-in 2 streets over, I'd installed security cameras. Front door, back door, driveway. They uploaded to cloud storage. I'd given Marcus and Andrea the access code so they could check on the house when I traveled. Which meant if they'd been here, if they'd been planning something, the cameras might have recorded it. I opened my laptop, logged into the security system, started scrolling back through footage. Days and days of nothing. Me leaving for grocery shopping. Me coming home. The mail carrier. My neighbor, Elena, watering her plants next door. Then I found it. Tuesday afternoon, 2:47 p.m., while I'd been at my book club meeting at the library. A silver SUV pulled into my driveway. Andrea got out. So did 2 men. One tall and thin, maybe 40, with a shaved head. The other, shorter, stockier, wearing a baseball cap. They walked around my house, pointing at things. The cameras caught audio too. That's when the first one came in. The tall one said, pointing at my roof, the fall from there would do it. Old guy, brittle bones. Especially if he's already on the ground from the first impact. Andrea's voice. But it has to look accidental. No signs of forced entry. That's what the medication's for, the stocky one said. Slip it in his morning coffee. Within an hour, he'll be dizzy, disoriented. Falls are common in elderly people, especially ones living alone. Andrea walked to my bedroom window. I could see her through the camera. When he's found tomorrow morning, it'll look like he got dizzy, stumbled, maybe hit his head on the nightstand, then fell. By the time Marcus gets here, it'll just look like a tragic accident. The stocky one said, We'll be in and out in 10 minutes. You let us in at 6 a.m. We set up the scene. You leave. You've got breakfast meeting alibi, right? Andrea nodded. I'll be at the Scottsdale Marriott with 3 clients. Security footage, witnesses, credit card receipt. By 7 a.m., I'm clear. And the medication? The tall one asked. Already in his coffee maker, Andrea said. I switched out the regular coffee for the drugged batch 2 days ago. He makes coffee every morning at 5:30. By 6, he'll be impaired enough that the fall will be believable. I stared at the screen. My hands were shaking. My daughter-in-law had poisoned my coffee. Was planning to stage my death tomorrow morning. And I'd had coffee this morning from that same machine. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. Then I ran to the kitchen and poured every ounce of coffee down the drain. Scrubbed the coffee maker with soap and hot water. My heart was racing. How much had I ingested over the past 2 days? Was I already compromised? I went back to the laptop. Kept watching. There was more. The payment? The tall one asked. Andrea pulled out an envelope. $20,000 now. Another 30 when it's done. Once the insurance pays out and the house sells, you'll get the rest. The house sells? I whispered. She was planning to make Marcus sell my house? Rest of the video showed them leaving. Andrea looking back at my house one more time. No emotion on her face, just cold calculation. I downloaded everything, every second of video, every word of audio, sent copies to 3 different email accounts. Then I made a decision that would either prove me paranoid or save my life. I called Detective Sarah Chen at Phoenix PD. We'd met 2 years ago when my neighbor's house was burgled. She'd been thorough, professional, kind. When she'd explained they probably wouldn't recover the stolen items, she'd given me her card. In case you ever need help, I needed help now. Detective Chen, this is Robert Morrison. We met about 2 years ago. The Camelback burglary? Mr. Morrison, yes, I remember. What can I do for you? I need to show you something. Tonight, if possible. My daughter-in-law is planning to kill me tomorrow morning. There was a pause. Sir, that's a serious accusation. I have video evidence, security footage. Her and 2 men discussing how to stage my accidental death. It's supposed to happen at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Are you somewhere safe right now? I'm at my house. My grandson's with me. He's the one who warned me. Don't move. I'm sending officers now. Don't open the door for anyone except us. 40 minutes later, Detective Chen was in my living room with 2 other officers, watching the security footage. Her face grew darker with each passing second. Mr. Morrison, this is attempted murder conspiracy. We need to move fast. What can we do? First, we're getting you and your grandson somewhere safe. Second, we're setting up a sting operation. Your daughter-in-law thinks you don't know. Let's keep it that way. At 2 a.m., Dylan and I were moved to a safe house in Tempe. Small apartment, 2 bedrooms, police protection outside. Dylan was scared but trying to be brave. Grandpa, did I do the right thing? Telling you? I pulled him close. You saved my life, Dylan. You're the bravest kid I know. What's going to happen to Mom? I don't know, buddy. But whatever happens, it's because of choices she made. Not because of you. That morning, Friday at 6 a.m., Detective Chen and her team were positioned around my house. Cameras hidden, microphones active. An undercover officer in my bedroom, dressed like me, wearing a wire. At 5:58 a.m., Andrea's car pulled into my driveway. She used her key to unlock the front door. Called out softly, Dad, you here? The tall man and stocky man entered behind her. They were carrying what looked like a medical bag. Andrea walked to my bedroom. The undercover officer, Agent Williams, was lying in my bed, eyes closed, breathing shallow. She checked his pulse, nodded to the 2 men. It's working. He's already disoriented from the medication. The stocky one pulled out a syringe. This will push his blood pressure through the roof. Combined with the dizziness medication, it'll cause the fall. Then we just need to make it look like he hit his head. Andrea stood back. Make it quick. Agent Williams, still lying down, spoke into his hidden mic. Go. Police burst through every door. Detective Chen, gun drawn, shouted, Phoenix PD! Nobody move! Andrea froze. The 2 men tried to run. They didn't make it to the door. Andrea Hammond, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, and fraud. As they handcuffed her, Andrea's face showed no remorse. Just shock that she'd been caught. Where's Robert? She demanded. Somewhere you can't hurt him, Detective Chen said. The trial lasted 6 weeks. The prosecution presented the security footage, the audio recordings, the syringe full of the medication designed to cause a fatal stroke. They brought in the 2 hired men, who'd turned state's evidence in exchange for reduced sentences. They testified that Andrea had contacted them through a dark web forum, paid them $20,000 up front, promised $70,000 more. They presented my coffee maker, tested positive for benzodiazepines and blood pressure medication in doses high enough to incapacitate an elderly person. Andrea's defense tried to claim entrapment, argued that she'd never gone through with it. But the jury saw the footage, heard her voice. It needed to look natural. Falls are common in elderly people. Dylan testified, 10 years old, wearing his best church clothes, speaking in a quiet voice about the conversations he'd overheard, the fear he'd felt, how nobody believed him until his grandpa finally listened. The jury took 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, attempted murder, elder abuse, fraud. The judge sentenced her to 35 years without parole. Marcus sat in the courtroom every day. My son, 43 years old, watching his wife be sentenced for trying to murder his father. After the verdict, he approached me in the courthouse hallway. "Dad, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. I should have believed Dylan. He tried to tell me. I told him he was having nightmares." I put my hand on his shoulder. "She fooled both of us, son. The difference is, when it mattered, I listened." He started crying. "I'm so sorry." "I know." Marcus and Dylan moved in with me temporarily. My son filed for divorce immediately. The house in Scottsdale, the one Andrea had been so proud of, went on the market. Marcus wanted nothing from that life. But something had changed in my son. He'd withdrawn, stopped talking much, spent hours staring at nothing. Dylan was worried about his dad. "Grandpa, is Dad going to be okay?" "I hope so, buddy. He just needs time." But it wasn't getting better. Marcus started drinking, missing work, not sleeping. 2 months after the trial, his company put him on administrative leave. I didn't know how to help him. This was my son, the boy I'd raised, and I couldn't reach him. He'd built a wall around himself that I couldn't break through. That's when Elena intervened. My neighbor from next door, Elena Martinez, 72 years old, retired teacher, widow for 10 years. We'd been friendly neighbors for 3 decades. Ruth and Elena had been close friends. After Ruth died, Elena would check on me, bring me food, make sure I wasn't isolating myself. One morning, she knocked on my door. "Robert, we need to talk about Marcus." "I know. I'm worried too. He needs professional help. Therapy, maybe medication. I've suggested it. He won't listen." "Then you need to make him listen. Because Dylan is watching his father fall apart, and that boy has been through enough." She was right. That afternoon, I sat Marcus down. "We're going to see someone, a therapist. Together if you want, alone if you prefer. But you're going." "Dad, I'm fine." "You're not fine, and that's okay. Your wife tried to murder your father for money. That's not something you just get over. But you have a son who needs you." Marcus's eyes filled with tears. "I married her. I brought her into our lives. I gave her access to you. If Dylan hadn't said something, you'd be dead. Because of me." There it was, the guilt he'd been carrying. "Marcus, look at me. This wasn't your fault. Andrea made these choices. You didn't. I should have seen it. The signs were there. Nobody saw it. She was good at hiding who she really was." He went to therapy, started attending 3 times a week. Slowly, gradually, he started healing, started talking to Dylan again, started being present. But something else was happening. I was seeing Elena differently. The way she'd stepped in to help Marcus, the way she checked on Dylan, making sure he was eating, doing his homework, processing the trauma, the way she organized my pills after I'd mentioned forgetting to take them. She'd been showing up for my family in ways I hadn't noticed before, or maybe I'd noticed but hadn't let myself acknowledge. One evening, 6 months after the trial, Elena and I were sitting on my back patio, watching the sunset over Camelback Mountain. Marcus and Dylan were inside making dinner together. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For everything. For being there. For seeing what I couldn't see with Marcus." She smiled. "That's what neighbors do." "You've been more than a neighbor, Elena." She turned to me. "We've known each other for 32 years, Robert. I watched you raise Marcus. I watched you love Ruth through her illness. I watched you survive her death. You're a good man." I thought about those 32 years. All the times Elena had been there. When Ruth was diagnosed with cancer, Elena had driven Ruth to chemotherapy appointments. When Ruth died, Elena had organized the funeral reception, made sure I ate, sat with me in the quiet evenings when the grief was too heavy. I'd thought of her as Ruth's friend, then as my kind neighbor, but she'd been more than that. She'd been family, not blood family, chosen family. "Elena," I started, not sure what I wanted to say. She put her hand over mine. "I know, me too." We sat there as the sun set, not saying anything more, not needing to. Dylan came running out. "Grandpa, Elena, dinner's ready. Dad made your favorite. Enchiladas. I looked at Elena. Join us? I'd love to. A year after the trial, Marcus was doing better. Still in therapy, but functional, working again, being a present father to Dylan. He'd sold the Scottsdale house, downsized to a small condo in Tempe, started over. Dylan was 12 now, growing like a weed, still played basketball, still came over every Thursday. But now he was lighter, happier. The weight of that terrible secret wasn't crushing him anymore. One Saturday, the four of us were hiking Camelback Mountain. Me, Marcus, Dylan, and Elena. Halfway up, we stopped for water. Dylan looked at me. Grandpa, can I ask you something? Always, buddy. Do you think about Mom? Andrea? Sometimes. Do you? Yeah. I wonder if she ever thinks about what she did. If she's sorry. What do you think? He was quiet for a moment. I don't think she's sorry she did it. I think she's sorry she got caught. Smart kid. Grandpa, why did you believe me when nobody else did? I thought about that question. Because you'd been right before, and I'd ignored you. Because the fear in your eyes was real. Because in that moment, I had to choose between believing my grandson or believing I was safe. And I chose you. He hugged me. I'm glad you did. Me too, buddy. Me too. We reached the summit. Stood looking out over Phoenix. The city sprawling below us, mountains in every direction. This is our city, Marcus said quietly. We don't let it be ruined by what she did. Elena smiled. No, we don't. We keep living, keep loving, keep showing up for each other. Dylan looked up at me. Is that what family means, Grandpa? Showing up? I thought about Andrea, who'd lived in our family for 12 years, but was never really part of it. I thought about Elena, who'd been showing up for 32 years without asking for anything in return. Yeah, Dylan. That's exactly what family means. 2 years after the trial, Elena and I got married. Small ceremony at a chapel in Paradise Valley. Marcus walked me down the aisle, which made us both laugh. Dylan was the ring bearer. Elena's 2 daughters and their families came from California. It was simple, quiet, perfect. We didn't move in together immediately. We wanted Dylan to have stability, wanted Marcus to continue healing at his own pace. But we had dinner together every night, spent weekends together, built a life that felt right. One evening, I was going through old papers, organizing things. I found the security camera footage from that Tuesday, the day Andrea and those 2 men had stood in my driveway, planning my murder. I watched it again, heard her voice. It needed to look natural. Elena came in, saw what I was watching. Are you okay? Yeah, just remembering. She sat beside me. You know what strikes me about this whole thing? What? Dylan saved your life. But in a way, you saved his too. How so? You believed him. When nobody else would, when it would have been easier to dismiss him as an imaginative kid, you listened. You validated him. Do you know how powerful that is for a child? To be heard by an adult they trust? I hadn't thought about it that way. He'll carry that with him forever, Elena said. The knowledge that when it mattered most, his grandfather chose to believe him. 3 years after the trial, I got a letter. Prison mail. From Andrea. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Dylan was at school, Marcus at work, Elena was grocery shopping. I was alone in my house, holding an envelope from the woman who'd tried to kill me. I opened it. Robert, I know you won't believe this, but I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry I did it. I've had 3 years to think about what I became. How I let greed turn me into someone who could plan the murder of a good man who'd never done anything but welcome me into his family. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I needed you to know that I see clearly now what I couldn't see then. The money wouldn't have made me happy. It never could. Because happiness doesn't come from what you take. It comes from what you give. You gave me kindness, acceptance, love, and I was too broken to recognize its value. I've asked Marcus not to bring Dylan to visit me. I don't want him to see me here, to remember his mother this way. But could you tell him something for me? Tell him he was right to warn you. Tell him he's brave and good and that he should trust his instincts. Because he saw what I really was before any of the adults did, and that makes him wiser than all of us. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just acknowledging the truth. I destroyed a family, and I'll spend the rest of my life living with that. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer, didn't respond. That night at dinner, Elena asked, "Are you going to tell Dylan about the letter?" "I don't know. What do you think?" She considered. "I think Dylan is wise enough to handle the truth. He's 14 now, not a little boy anymore." After dinner, I asked Dylan to take a walk with me. We went to the neighborhood park, sat on a bench. "I got a letter from your mom today." He went very still. "What did she say?" I told him. All of it. The apology, the regret, the message for him. When I finished, he sat quietly for a long time. "Do you believe her?" he finally asked. "I don't know. I think she regrets getting caught. Whether she truly understands the harm she caused, I can't say." "Do you forgive her?" "No. But I don't hate her either. I'm just done with her. She's not part of my life anymore." He nodded. "Grandpa, can I ask you something else?" "Anything." "You and Elena. You're happy, right?" "Yeah, buddy. I'm happy." "Good. Because you deserve to be happy. You showed up for me when it mattered. You believed me. And that changed everything." I put my arm around him. "You saved my life, Dylan. Don't ever forget that." "I won't. But you saved mine too, by listening." 4 years after the trial, I was 70 years old. Dylan was 16, getting his driver's license, talking about colleges. Marcus was remarried to a kind woman named Jennifer, a trauma counselor he'd met through his therapy. They were expecting a baby girl. Elena and I had finally moved in together. Sold my old house, bought a new place in North Phoenix, with a guest house where Dylan could stay whenever he wanted. I was sitting in my new backyard one evening, thinking about the journey, how close I'd come to dying, how a 10-year-old boy's courage had saved me, how I'd found love again with someone who'd been showing up for me for decades. Elena came out, handed me a glass of iced tea. "What are you thinking about?" "I was thinking about family, real family." "And what did you conclude?" "That blood doesn't determine family. Showing up does. Being there. Believing someone when they need to be believed." She smiled. "You learned that from Dylan." "I learned a lot from Dylan. Courage, trust, the importance of listening." We sat together as the sun set. Marcus called to tell us Jennifer's ultrasound went well. The baby was healthy. They were going to name her Ruth, after my late wife. I hung up the phone, tears in my eyes. Elena squeezed my hand. "Ruth would have loved this," she said. "The family you've built, the way you've healed." "She's here," I said. "In all of it." That night, I wrote a letter. Not to Andrea. To Dylan. To be opened on his 18th birthday. "Dylan, by the time you read this, you'll be a young man. But I'll always remember you as that brave 10-year-old who grabbed my arm and begged me to believe him. You saved my life, not just by warning me about your mother's plan, but by teaching me what courage looks like. You were scared, alone, and nobody believed you, but you kept trying. You didn't give up on me. Here's what I want you to know. The family you're born into isn't always the family you need. Sometimes the family you choose, the family that chooses you back, is the one that matters most. Your mother made terrible choices, but those choices don't define you. You define you. And you've chosen kindness, honesty, bravery. That's who you are. When I'm gone, I'm leaving you this house, my savings, everything I have. But more importantly, I'm leaving you this knowledge. You are loved, not because of blood, but because of who you are. Because you showed up when it mattered. Because you had the courage to tell the truth, even when nobody wanted to hear it. Trust that courage. Trust your instincts. And remember, family isn't who you're related to. Family is who shows up. Keep showing up, Dylan. For the people you love, for yourself. With all my love, Grandpa. I sealed the letter, put it in my safe. Went to bed next to Elena, grateful for every day I'd been given. Every day that Dylan's courage had made possible. Now, I want you to understand something. I spent years not listening to the warning signs. Dylan tried to tell me, tried to tell his father, tried to tell his counselor. We all dismissed him, Children see things. Adults miss them because we're too busy, too trusting, too convinced we know better. Don't be like me. When a child tells you something's wrong, listen. Really listen. They notice things. They sense danger. They feel the wrongness before we do because they haven't learned to make excuses yet. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been in a situation where you wished someone had believed you, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment, share your story, subscribe so you don't miss more real stories like this. Because these aren't just stories, they're lessons. And the most important lesson is this: show up for the people who matter, for the children who need you, for yourself. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up when it matters. Choose wisely. Choose the people who choose you.